Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in this cryptoverse. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining today's AMA with BaseCase. A few quick housekeeping notes. AMA is being recorded, of course, and nothing shared today is financial advice. We will save time for obviously community questions at the end if time allows it. Today, we're joined by the team behind BaseCase, more specifically, the co-founder and lead developer. BaseCase is a new permissionless prediction market introducing an innovative concept called shadow liquidity. We will cover who they are, why they're building BaseCase, how the product works, and what's coming with the upcoming TG and beyond. So without further ado, let's jump in. Before we talk about the market or the technology, I think it's important to understand the people behind BaseCase and what really motivates them build this.
Hello.
For anyone new here, Casey, can you please? Hey, Casey, how you doing, bro? You okay? Yeah. So for anyone new here, Casey, can you briefly introduce the BaseCase team and what personal insights or experience led you to build this protocol?
Sure. So first off, thanks for having us.
You're
The base. Am I good here?
Yeah, you're good. Karen, by the way, you're a bit choppy. Your internet connection is a bit laggy. Maybe you can just rejoin, and I will take over from here until you're back. But yeah, Casey, just
okay.
give an introduction and explain to us what how you got along and what made you guys start the BaseCase.
Yeah, sure. So we're a small team, but passionate group of builders. We've been around in crypto since 2017. My background is I am a software developer by profession, and the other co-founder, Rudy, he's got a master's of business. He's done some startup work and stuff like that, and he's actually been alongside me in the crypto space since the very beginning. So we're very close to each other. And we've done a lot, we've been here since the early days. We've seen the highs, we've seen the lows, we've seen everything in between. And basically what the insight that sparked BaseCase, it just came from a simple frustration. Prediction markets have incredible potential, but the barrier to entry, it seemed to us, was absurdly high. Since traditional platforms like Polymarket and such, Kalshi, they require massive liquidity upfront. So that means that they fully curate their own questions and markets, and those are the only ones that actually get posted and people can bet on and speculate on. And also, the institutional market makers have to be willing to back those markets. So, but in our view, the most interesting predictions, so the niche calls, the contrarian takes, and the questions that nobody else is brave enough to ask, those never see the light of day, and people can't speculate on what they truly believe in or are knowledgeable about. So basically, we just ask ourselves, what if anybody could create a prediction market with zero upfront capital? And that's basically how the formation of BaseCase came to be.
That's very interesting, and I'm not a gambler myself, but I know prediction markets are very, very hot, and it's not just gamblers, right? It's like also people like to just sometimes it's just fun. They predict, and we know that there are some bigger plays there, like Polymarket and stuff like that, but we also know that it's fragmented and nobody can really create the markets. So I think that's really nice to see that BaseCase is kind of taking that problem and finding a real solution to it. And you guys have obviously, when we did the due diligence on the application process, have shown us the demo and everything. And I really like what you guys are building with the shadow liquidity and the whole way of how to graduate. The whole business model is also very, very cool. So super, super excited about that. And this is really why also we decided to be launching the first project with you guys, the first launch within Seed. So we're super, super excited about that. Now, I have a question from the community, I believe, that have asked, with everyone from MetaMask to Binance creating their own prediction markets. It feels like prediction markets are exploding right now. what recent shifts or breakthroughs made you confident that now is the right moment for BaseCase to win this market compared to a year ago or a year from now?
So in our opinion, the timing couldn't be better. Obviously, we've seen across social media and such that Polymarket has really taken the front stage, the limelight, so to speak. Polymarket put the prediction markets on the map. So now we have millions of people that understand what the whole use case of prediction markets is and why they matter. And second, now we have infrastructure maturity. So, so if we were to decide to build this for anybody that doesn't know, we're building this on BaseChain. And before, if you wanted to maybe build it on Ethereum mainnet or something along those lines, the cost would be a little bit too high. But now we have a very robust, secure, and stable L2, which is BaseChain, that we can build on, which is EVM, and it really cuts down the costs, right? So we have Ethereum security with sub-penny transaction costs. So it really does not cost any money at all to transact on BaseChain. And also something that's tried and true, and actually what Polymarket uses is the UMA optimistic oracle, which it's tried and it's true, and it gives us trustless resolution. So all the building blocks are in place. And also, as you mentioned earlier, Ali, that the liquidity problem is still unsolved. So every new prediction market faces the cold start problem. So over on Polymarket or Kalshi, there's a lot of dead markets, right? The team curates markets, and they essentially decide what to put on their platform. But a lot of those markets are dead markets. They're just in the background. You don't see them front and center, right? So they're all fighting over the same pool of market makers. And we're not competing for that pool. We're actually trying to make it irrelevant. So we think that the window is now, the category is exploding, but nobody's cracked the permissionless market creation at scale. So that's the lane we're kind of focused on.
Perfect. And you're 100% right here when it comes to Base being. I think, can you mute you guys when you're not speaking, because I think there's a yes, thanks so much. Base is for us also a very nice chain, not just because it's got the security of Ethereum and the costs of cheaper networks like Solana, but also because the Base Foundation is really supporting utility plays, right? You don't see that with many other chains, and this is what I really like about the Base Foundation. They're really supportive, and it's easy to kind of approach them and speak to them. Of course, they're going to always wait for a product to be live, but it's always nice to see them also supporting in the background. And yeah, I'll give the mic back to you, Karen, now that you're here.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Karen, you're still very laggy.
I don't know. Kind of.
That's fine, Karen. I'll do the AMA. I'll take it over. That's all right. No
Sorry?
worries. Karen must have.
I'm still.
Yeah. It's very bad. No worries, Karen. All right. So I'll ask you, Casey, from a user's perspective, what is the biggest improvement people will feel immediately when using BaseCase compared to existing prediction markets? And it doesn't just have to be Polymarket. There's quite a few predictions market popping up, and they're very hot right now. So what's the real difference here?
So in 2 words, instant markets. On existing platforms, you have an idea for a market, and then you're unable to create it. Or maybe you look for this market, how you can speculate on it, and you can't find it, or you're hopping between platforms to try to find it, right? And you don't create it because you need to seed liquidity, and then you need to convince a market maker, and it's just too hard in practice. So on BaseCase, what we're aiming to do is you think of a question, you create the market, and people are trading 30 seconds later. You don't need any upfront capital. You don't need any permission. And then also the second thing that people feel immediately, in our opinion, will be fairness. Early believers get early prices via our bonding curve shadow liquidity mechanism. and you are rewarded for conviction, not just capital that you've committed, right? So that's where we look to stand out and separate ourselves from the masses.
First time you spoke about the shallow liquidity, I remember, I believe it was Gar who had the first call with you guys, and he told me the shallow liquidity is really crazy, and I was like, "What's shallow liquidity?" And then after reading and having a few meetings with you guys, I think it's a really nice concept, and this is what sometimes is needed to change the game, right? Just something little sometimes is much better than something bigger, as long as it's a real problem that's getting solved. And I know that BaseCase has a few kind of solutions to a few problems out there, like that you have in the bigger ones, like Polymarket. And just in case people don't know that are listening here, Polymarket right now, if I'm not mistaken, if it hasn't changed, is the biggest growing company in the world. Prediction markets right now, guys, are hot. And with Polymarket, Polymarket itself as a company are the only ones that can create the market, as we said. So one thing BaseCase changes, as he said, is that you can just create a market yourself. And talking a little bit then about the liquidity to give people a bit of understanding. I know you've talked and a little bit about it, but can you give us a bit more of a kind of a deep dive what shadow liquidity is? I know it's a new concept, and you guys named it shadow liquidity, but could you explain it simply for somebody that has never heard about it before, doesn't understand predictions market, essentially someone like me when I first kind of understood it?
Sure. So basically, if anybody's used pump fund, it's basically very similar to a pump fund model. So basically, you're bootstrapping liquidity for the markets before the liquidity even exists. So why it's called shadow liquidity is because it's liquid before it's even liquid. It's basically let's say I have 1,000 lemons. As you buy lemonade, I use the money to buy those lemons. Same kind of idea. You make a market, conviction. If there's enough interest in it, that's when the market graduates from the bonding phase, from the shadow liquidity phase to the order book phase, right? And that's what kind of says like, okay, people are interested in this market, and bigger orders can go in after the market actually graduates. So markets launch with virtual reserves, which is the shadow liquidity. Users trade against these virtual reserves via the bonding curve. Their real USDC goes into a vault. When the vault proves there's enough real money to back all the position, the market graduates. Shadow shares that are bought or sold during the bonding phase, they convert to real ERC20 tokens. And then that's when the order book phase opens, and that's when larger orders can come in, and anybody can buy and sell throughout that whole process, whether it be during the bonding curve phase or the order book phase. And so why it changes everything is you can get price discovery and trading activity before requiring locked capital, which is the big bottleneck in our opinion in the prediction market industry. So the crowd proves the market deserves to exist, then it graduates into the real thing, basically. I hope that's a decent enough explanation for people.
I hope so. And we're always going to have a few people that are going to ask questions. So feel free, guys, to always, you can either ask questions here and we'll take some questions in the end, or always be in the BaseCase community chat. You can always ask questions there, or in the C chat. Feel free. We're always here to help. And our moderators are always active as well. So just to understand it, and for other people to kind of clarify that as well, that means that anybody can just create any market. It could be something as stupid as, not necessarily stupid, but maybe me and my mates are in a pub playing some darts with 5 of us, and we're like, hey, let's just bet against each other, and like $500, and the winner gets essentially $2.5 grand. Is that correct?
That's right. And obviously it's a yes or no market. So you could say, yes, Ali will win. No, Ali will not win. That kind of gives the two sides, right? And yeah, that's exactly the point that we want to do. An example I like to use is esports, right? You have a small kind of niche community watching their favorite streamer play some sort of game online, right? That community, you know, let's say it's even 20, 30, 40, 50 people, 100 people get together. They're like, okay, well, let's bet on the outcome of this game for our favorite streamer. Some people bet yes, some people bet no, and the market resolves itself, right? And also within our protocol, we have that the community itself can resolve the market before it actually goes to the UMA or Oracle. So, and then you have to put up a small bond, right? So there is no incentive to lie. So if you want to, if the community wants to resolve the market to yes, then they put someone says, okay, I want to say that it's yes. They put up the bond. If somebody else comes on the other side and puts up no, and then after that, only after both sides, if there's a disagreement, then it'll go to the UMA Oracle. But if everybody agrees on one thing, then someone puts up a bond, the market resolves after some time period, and then if it is true, they get that bond back. So there is no incentive to lie in that sense.
I see, and that's not really an issue that has been kind of discovered with the kind of competitors when it comes to lying or trying not to resolve it, right?
That's right. So for Polymarket, for example, they use the optimistic oracle, UMA optimistic oracle, to resolve all their markets, right? And so, you know, it's a quick way for niche markets. If a community agrees on one outcome, then there's no need to go use the optimistic oracle, right? And obviously, if everybody agrees that it doesn't have to go and nobody loses their bond, and you know the market resolution is streamlined through that way.
Perfect, perfect. And now going to the juicier questions, which I think a lot of people are also kind of waiting when it comes to the token and TG and that sort of stuff. Can you walk us through the role of the BaseCase token and how it aligns users, liquidity, and long-term protocol? And I believe we're going to be calling the token case, right?
That's right. So basically, the incentives to hold our case token. Well, first off, I guess I'll start with this. So there is revenue sharing just for creating markets. So I guess something we should also touch on is why people should create markets that matter. So if you create a market, because it's obvious that not every market will graduate, you know, because of the nature of decentralization, people are inevitably going to create markets that don't matter or have no real resolution or can't be resolved in a decentralized way, right? So these are markets that are going to be stuck in the bonding phase. Not enough people are going to care about it. It'll get stuck in the bonding phase. It'll kind of fall off to the wayside. If you create a market that matters and it graduates into the order book phase, then you get 50% of all the revenue from that market. Also, if you use our case token, you will have a revenue share for staking it, right? Across all markets. So 100% of the protocol revenue, you stake a certain amount of case tokens, and then proportionally you'll get rewarded from the fees of the protocol itself. So that's it. You know, we've considered introducing governance. You know, so obviously the token launch itself is just for the token. And then on top of that, we can always build smart contracts that are governance, tiered benefits, market maker incentives, and of course the revenue share and the fee share for staking the token.
As well as, I guess, liquidity provisions also can be one of the additional to staking. So quite a lot of utility around them. I really like the revenue share part. Really, because I'm really interested and with Seed and the new vision of Seed is to go into Web2 projects, not just focus on the Web3 side, but really allow the Web3 side to funnel into the Web2. And if the Web2 has a side has a good product which predictions market, it doesn't really get better than that at this stage. We really want to kind of go more towards the revenue phase, because the only way you can build for longevity is for you to build a treasury, of course, right? And if you have revenue generating, even through bear markets, people still trade, people still go in prediction markets. You know, these are kind of niches and products that people don't really stop using. And this is why we're super excited about BaseCase. Now, for listeners who want to participate in the TGE, and we're going to announce that as well more closer to the date, but for you specifically, what are the concrete steps they should take and what should they be paying attention to right now?
So we are launching in conjunction with you, right? So I think the first steps would be join our socials. All the meaningful updates and important announcements will be there. So please follow our Twitter, our X, join the TG. We're active in there. And also, I know that right now through Seed and I think through Pineapple as well, you guys have a whitelist happening type thing, right? So if anybody is holding Seed tokens or Pineapple tokens, I'm not sure, you know that better. That's a great way to get in for the pre-sale. And so when the platform goes live, have some ETH on base chain for gas, and really you don't need that much. It's like the costs for transactions on base are just negligible. And have some USDC and play around with the markets, right? And pay attention to the important dates, right? We have a launch date locked in. I'll let you guys kind of announce that, and we'll announce it in conjunction with Seed and Pineapple. Please only go to trusted links. You know, we're never gonna be in your DMs asking for funds, things like that. So please be aware of scammers. All the official links and everything are in the Telegram, are on our Twitter. And then also, please don't be participating and interacting with any unknown contract addresses. That will be announced prior to the actual launch.
Perfect. And we had the same thing within our Pineapple mention. So just in case people don't know, the Pineapple guys who are on the mansion, they're getting investment opportunity into BaseCase, and so do Seed holders. So if you hold 1 million Seed tokens plus, you're allowed to invest. Please check the announcement. It very clearly states on how to invest, and if there's any questions, just ask in the community. And we had actually people asking us that haven't used the base chain before, you know, and they've asked us how much kind of native token should I put in. So just in case people don't know, Base doesn't have a token, guys. It's a ETH native for the gas fees. So you're going to have to bridge Ethereum into the Base. It doesn't really matter where the Ethereum comes from. It could be from ETH network or other networks, as long as it's ETH, I guess. And when people ask how do I bridge, the easiest part is centralized exchange, or you can find bridges in your wallet as well these days. It's super, super easy. And then people ask how much Ethereum should I have? And honestly, guys, like I have multiple wallets that I've used for years, and I've put about $5 in it. It still lasts me, right? We're talking about pennies up and like fractional pennies. So it's not gonna cost you much. So it's not like Ethereum, and this is also why I guess BaseCase and you guys have decided to launch on Base Chain so that people can actually, you know, put $1 or $2 or 50 cents even, and be able to kind of, it will be worth it because they're not paying the same amount or even double that for the ETH gas fees. And it's of course much faster, with also not losing the security of Ethereum, which is super important. And that's also another reason why Ethereum really is as slow and as expensive as it is, because it's really the layer of security for these EVM chains. Looking ahead, so we're obviously going to announce closer to the date the TGE. It's very, very close, guys. So we're going to be announcing it, and then anyone can really just go and buy it. As Casey said, just make sure you have some gas fees. Make sure if you never use the base chain, you know, just input a few dollars and maybe get used to trading on Uniswap or whatever on Pineapple Exchange. We have base chain on there too, and you'll get the cheapest fees. So just feel free to kind of do 1 or 2 trades if you've never done it. It's exactly like Ethereum, but just in case you're kind of a bit worried, because I know some people, especially when it's TG and it's hectic, they get a bit worried. Casey, looking ahead 6 to 12 months, right? If BaseCase executes exactly as planned, What does the platform become, and why will people be glad they joined early?
So BaseCase, what we want to become is we want to become the go-to launchpad for prediction markets. If you think of Uniswap, if you've ever traded on Uniswap, any sort of tokens, the way they have become the default for token launches, we want to become the default for market launches. We want to cover thousands of active markets, right? Crypto, sports, esports, politics, culture, memes, anything the community cares about. Obviously, us as individuals, we we as a team, we have things we care about and something that we'd like to speculate on through prediction markets. But we don't know what everybody likes to speculate on. So I mean, we just want it to be a treasure trove of markets that people care about, right? And I think a really interesting part of this whole protocol and this whole project is seeing what people actually care about, and the truth will converge, and we'll see what people care about. So it's really exciting. We do want to have deep liquidity, right? Graduated markets competing with centralized venues on depths and spreads, and also cross-platform integration, right? We want other apps and other projects embedding BaseCase markets into their own platform because it's easier than creating their own and building their own, and it will give their users and their community another avenue to experiment and give them another kind of source of value, right? So honestly, the possibilities are endless. We're gonna weave and bob, and we're gonna figure it out as we go. But that's the longer term plan, right? And things can always change, and it's exciting. It's exciting time to be launching prediction markets in a decentralized fashion. And why you'll be glad you joined early. The bonding curve mechanic rewards early conviction. Not in just individual markets, but also in the protocol itself. Early case holders, early stakers, early market creators will all get rewarded, right? And we'll have tier systems, as I mentioned before. So it's really in your best interest to get involved early, play around with it, really become a part of the community. And, 6, 12, 18 months down the line, when things are really rolling and roaring, then you'll be happy you did. I can guarantee that.
And for some people, because we haven't really touched up on the business model, maybe just a quick TLDR about the business model and why it's so powerful.
For sure. So essentially, we are going to have a treasury which will roll back the revenue into the BaseCase protocol itself. So we do have a 50-50 split, as I mentioned before, with the creators. And so we'll take half the revenue, the creator takes half the revenue. Everyone's kind of benefiting, us as the developers and the team behind BaseCase will have the revenue coming from the generation creation. Revenue from the generation and creation of markets. So there's the 0.1% fee to actually place an order. So that'll be generating revenue, which, as I mentioned, goes back to the creators and the holders and the stakers. And treasury generation, and revenue, which will get inevitably rolled back in. And obviously, as we interact with the community, as we partner with other projects, this will actually just grow us and give us more exposure. So that's basically where we're at with the business model. It's sound. Will be solvent throughout. We've actually created the prediction markets so that everybody is solvent throughout the whole process of the prediction market phase. So all the way through bonding and into the order book phase, everybody's solvent. Everybody can buy and sell at any time, always take their money out. And we just take a small fee on top of that, which we share with people that are active in the token, in the community, and actively participating.
Sounds good, man. And just for some people that don't know, the volume on these prediction markets sometimes they go above $100 million on the day, depending on what markets are open, especially when it's bigger games. Like boxing is really, really big, I believe, right? When Anthony Joshua recently fought, I believe it went to crazy numbers. And we're trying to support BaseCase to make sure that, as he said, with the APIs and SDKs and more of a kind of plug-in into the already businesses, we're talking to kind of casinos. We're also in discussion with adding it actually to potentially our own juice bot, Telegram bot at Pineapple. So it's really endless. And what I really like is that they are really solid developers. I mean, I always like, and I always tell in AMAs that there's nothing better than founding team that are developers, right? One is great. Two, even it doesn't get better than that. And back in the days when I used to do a lot of VC investments, the projects that used to get kind of the best investments and the kind of the fastest investments are always founders with development or technical background, because it just makes sense, you know, to be able to kind of build a product without really needing funds at the moment, because you as a founding team, you believe in it, you can work on it without getting paid. And then when obviously launching the token and the MVP comes out, the product comes out, then revenue generation is where you then kind of look at the product and trying to build it and grow the treasury and really create this enormous company. I mean, anyone can go and look at the competitors of BaseCase, and we're really talking, huge numbers, tens or even some hundreds of million in valuation. So, and we're not just talking specifically the Web3 token. I know a lot of people thinking when I say 100 million valuation, it's a token specifically. No, we're talking about actually the equity side of the business, because it's such an interesting niche. It's kind of taking gambling to the next level. It's in that niche, and obviously casinos are always interested to buy, and plugging it into these kind of companies, that's how you really scale from 1,000 to 10,000 users. So super excited about that. Veronica, can we actually pull up 1, 2, or 3 questions here, and we can just go live from questions to answers? Okay, I'll answer that. It will be trading on Pineapple Exchange after launch. Our exchange has Base. So if you're trying to trade the Case token and get the cheapest fees, it will be on Pineapple Exchange. I believe liquidity will be added on Uniswap, but you'll still get cheaper fees on Pineapple Exchange. Nothing crazy because the fees are already so low. But yeah, it will be live on Pineapple Exchange.
Holding Case gets discount on the platform, or what's the utility? So as I mentioned, if you hold Case, you go and stake it, you get 50% of all the revenue that's generated by the platform. So sorry, proportionally, 50% gets distributed proportionally across holders, right? So if you own 1%, then you get 1% of that 50%, and it's proportional like that. And then we'll also introduce tiered mechanisms, right? So earlier holders and stakers will get some added benefits. We are considering introducing governance, so some voting rights in order to make changes to the platform. And yeah, that's pretty much it, right? So, and obviously some sort of a revenue going back into the protocol, which goes back into Case and such, which will drive the token price up. But really, it's in your best interest to get in early in order to maximize your revenue from the protocol itself, right? So if you want to be earning from day one, go for it. You know, it's an exciting time, right? And as Ali mentioned, the volume on these prediction markets can get absolutely wild. So it can really be a profitable venture for all Case token holders.
Yeah, man, I'm looking at the big numbers. I'm really excited. It could be just one day where suddenly 1 or 2 markets open. And just so people understand, the bigger competitors that do hundreds of millions in a day, sometimes it's just the 0.1% of the markets that actually create 99% of the volume. And it really just needs one good market to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, possibly in fees. And it's only a matter of time. So it really depends on the token valuation and how many people actually staked. But it could be that suddenly one day you're just getting whatever you invest in case back from just that. Now, just to kind of clarify, you said 100% and you said 50%. I know that me as outsider, for example, I can go to basecase.gg and in the future I can create markets soon, right? So when I create a market, I get 50% of the fees. Let's just consider the fees to be 2%, for example. I get 1% and BaseCase gets 1%. Do stakers get the whole 1% or do they get half of that?
So I'll clarify, right? If you go and you create a market and it graduates and it generates a lot of volume, you'll get 50% of just that market. Case holders, they can just stake their case and they get 50% proportionally to all of the fees generated across the entire platform. So it's really an exponential earning that you're getting through staking and holding the case token itself.
Okay, I'm still a little bit confused. So whatever BaseCase generates in terms of revenue, is 50% of that going to stakers or 100%? Just to clarify, because I know some people are going to get confused.
50%.
Okay,
So
and
BaseCase
50%
gets
gets by BaseCase.
That's right.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that sounds more right and very, very fair because I heard 100% earlier and I saw someone writing 100%, so we don't want people to get confused. Guys, they need to make money in the end of the day, right? So when I first heard 50%, I was already like, that's a lot. Because again, it could be so much value. It's really insane. Like if you take 5% of the top 5 predictions market and how much kind of revenue they're generating and per day, right? Times it by 30 to get per month. And really kind of think about it for a minute or two. I think getting in early just makes sense, especially with staking, because I also think you guys gonna have APY and other features, like you said, governance, but on top of getting all that revenue, there's also going to be APY. So that's also kind of generating wealth when it comes to that. So
yeah, and really at the end of the day, right, without users and without a community, due to the decentralized nature, right, we want to incentivize people to go and make markets, right, and share it with their friends. And also in the future, again, like I know there's like infinite possibilities, right? Like we can have partners, like we can have exclusive partners with creators, you know, so you think YouTubers, streamers, Spotify artists, like whatever, right? So we can take those partnerships too, but really at the end of the day, we need the community, right? So we really wanted to incentivize people to go play with the platform, play with the protocol, make markets, bring their friends in, and all this kind of stuff, right? Because really without the users and the participation, we can't make it happen, right? So we're really user friendly and centric, right? So we'll be here from A to Z to support the community and hear you guys out about any changes or anything like that. So yeah.
And the partnerships, there's not really any limit. The sky's the limit here. You could really get, as you said, it could be streamers, it could be gamers, it could be anything. It really anything. As we were discussing, always we were like, oh, we can plug you guys here, we can plug you guys here. If you really think about it, you can be plugged in anywhere, right? Because everyone can just create a market, and the market could be anything. And if the market can be anything, you can really just plug it anywhere. So it can even be like, is it going to be 38 degrees in this country tomorrow or something like that? So I'm super excited, and I do believe there's going to be millions and millions of markets being created. And as you said, obviously not all of them are going to graduate. And this is another quite nice thing that you guys have built, the tech behind the graduation, because I know when you go to competitors, there's a lot of dead markets. I believe more than half are dead markets, and you guys have basically solved that issue. Could you just give a quick 30-second rundown how you kind of tackled that?
Yeah, so in theory, as I mentioned, because of the nature of decentralization and because of the nature that anybody can go onto our platform and create a market, inevitably anybody that's been in crypto, there's a lot of garbage out there, right? So inevitably, because we're not restricting anybody, there's going to be garbage markets created that don't have a resolution. Something like is the sun yellow or is the sky blue? You know what I mean? Like these sorts of markets aren't going to get a lot of interest naturally, and they won't graduate, right? And then so we've put a time limit on how long a market has to actually a bond, right? So right now it's set to a week. This may change in the future, right? We're going to tweak stuff as we move along here. But right now, if something doesn't graduate in a week, it's probably not going to graduate. Probably doesn't deserve to be on there, and so it'll just get tossed in the trash, basically, right? And so yeah, that's pretty much what we're looking at in order to curb the dead market problem, right? We don't want dead markets. Obviously, there's going to be some garbage markets out there, for lack of a better term, and so that's kind of how we solve. That's what we're looking to solve, and that's our solution to it. So yeah, that's pretty much it, right? And obviously some tweaks and fixes as we go along to figure that out. But I think it's a good kind of like a good hurdle, right? Or a good like kind of like goalpost, right? It's like, hey, look, if nobody cares about this market, then why should it be here? And it'll also incentivize. And if it doesn't graduate, you don't get 50% of that market. So that kind of really tones down the number of garbage markets. Like no one's incentivized to make a market that they don't think will graduate, right? So that's kind of what we're tackling there, and that's kind of our solution to it, if that makes sense.
And just if I'm going to open a market doesn't graduate and there's $200 that was put in, that's going to be basically refunded after the.
Yes.
Okay,
yes. Everybody can go and claim, their money back. That's not like getting stolen or anything. That's fully refundable. All good.
Perfect. Just clarifying that for the listeners. That's actually a good question from @Bob4698. What will it cost to start a market?
It's free. It's free. Just pay the sub 1 penny or whatever to for the transaction fees on Base, and you can just create a market. That's it. It's free.
Does that mean I can create a market without actually having to put my own funds in there?
That's right. That's right. If you want to create a market and not even participate in it, you can do that too. I don't know why you do that. If you're creating a market, if you create a market, obviously I'm assuming you'd want to bet on it, right? But theoretically, you can just create a market and let it resolve itself and kind of test it out that way. That's completely okay too.
Because the way I see it is there's going to be people. I can quite guarantee that are going to be like, oh, there's going to be these big poly market, and the competitors are. For example, there's this big game coming up, like the Ante and Joshua. There's going to be people that are going to create these markets because they're thinking if this goes to 10 million, and obviously as BaseCase scales and creates tens and tens of million every day without even needing kind of this special fight, there's going to be always people that are trying to be the market creator because they get the 50% of the revenue share, which is not little, right? It could be, like I said, $100,000 if it's a 10 million volume, which is really, really crazy. So I think there's going to be people that are always going to create a market, which is quite good because in the same time, markets get created, and as long as they graduate, it's good for BaseCase. So how does that actually work? And I have never asked you that question, right? So that just popped in my mind then. I thought it was a good question actually. So if, for example, there's something that's really hot and people are left, right, center trying to be the main person of this market, so everyone's trying to create this market, and you have the same market, exact same market, 10 of them. How does that work? Is it just that the one that graduates first and the rest goes, or can multiple graduate the same ones and then people can just, it's decentralized, it's an open market at the end of the day, right? So how does that work?
Yeah, so similar to something like on Pump Fund, right? Like let's say some Elon tweet goes out and now there's like 10 different coins that launch with the same like link to the tweet or whatever, right? In general, there's only one that really takes precedence and goes on a run or whatever, right? we're expecting the same thing for the prediction markets, So if someone goes and, and there's 10 people that make 10 different markets, usually one will capture all the attention, and obviously that'll be pushed to the front of top volume or whatever on our platform. So that's the one that's gonna take precedence over the other ones, right? And naturally everybody will flood to the one that, has already graduated first and has the volume and whatnot.
Makes sense. As I was asking you a question, that the answer kind of popped in my head, but I was like, let me just ask you anyways. Okay, guys, I think it's been 50 minutes. I know we started 5 minutes late, so I'm going to let Casey. Is there anything you want to say, outro? Anything people should know about you or BaseCase that we haven't covered yet? We're obviously going to do many more AMAs. You guys are going to do your own internal AMAs, so investors and listeners are always welcome to join those two to get more information. And yeah, anything before we do an outro?
Yeah, so like I said, our little team, we've been around since 2017. I've done a lot of work within crypto. Very grateful for Seed kind of bringing us on and helping us with everything. So that's great. Everything is going to be audited, right? So in terms of security, everything's going to be great. No worries there. And basically, we're just excited. We're just excited to see how this goes, what markets graduate, what crazy things people care about and want to see on a prediction market, right? So that's basically it. I think we've covered a lot of good points. I hope I've explained the protocol and everything as best as I could. I'm here every day. I'm doing this full time. So, pop into the TG, send us a message on Twitter or X, ask us any questions. We're happy to answer them. And as far as the TGE and participation in that's a bit more on Seed side and Pineapple side. So make sure to reach out to them. If you have any questions about how much you can contribute or how much you should contribute or how much you can or anything like that. But other than that, I think we're pretty good. And thank you for hosting this AMA there, Ali. Really appreciate it.
That's all right. And it's a pleasure. I can only talk from my kind of point and Seeds, the team at Seed and Pineapple. It's a super pleasure to work with a team like Casey and Rudy and the others in the team. Like you said, it's a small team, but it doesn't feel like a small team, mainly because they're very experienced. And you can just tell, I've worked in the last 9 years. It's almost been 10 years now, Web3. I've worked with, people that have been in the space for a very long time, but have no idea, to people that have worked very long time and have done so much. And I can tell that these guys, they're super experienced. It's really, really a pleasure to work with them. It's super smooth, super easy. When we plugged our team in, it was just like as if we were already a team together. It didn't feel like we had to kind of understand. It just works. The flow is super smooth. And obviously with Seed being plugged in, we plugged in 12 people. So now from a small team, they've got the whole operations running. And we're all super excited, not just because it's the first Seed launch, but really because we decided that it's the first one because we believe in this product. This product is super, super clean. We've tried it out. Your tech skills, Casey, they're above and beyond. So and that brings us to the end of the main AMA here, guys, and questions. Thank you to the BaseCase team for sharing the vision here, and to everyone who joined today. If you want to stay involved, follow BaseCase on social channels. I'm sure Veronica and our marketing team are gonna blast that everywhere, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find. If you manage to find yourself here in this AMA, join the community. Keep an eye out for upcoming TGE announcements. And we appreciate your time and look forward to seeing how BaseCase evolves. I really appreciate your time, Casey, and hopefully we do this very, very soon again.
Thank you, Ali. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Take it easy, mate. Bye-bye.
Prediction markets are simple. People bet on what they believe. And lately, they've exploded. But even with all that traction, something has always held them back. They only cover a small slice of what people actually care about. BaseCase changes that. It gives every market its own liquidity, built right into the design. It lets anyone create a market on anything. Not just the big global events, but the niche topics, the community moments, the predictions that only matter to your world. It's a simple shift, but a huge one. Because when markets have guaranteed liquidity, open creation, and trustless settlement, they become a way for people everywhere to express what they believe. Your world, your predictions, your markets. What's your base case?